Hello trainers, Ganeto here, and today we're diving together into Open Ultra League with my best teams video, 5 teams in total, 5 single showcases, and we're gonna see their strongest assets in the meta and also their core breakers. So for the first team showcase, we're having the Verizion, whatever up in front, at the back, one Reggie, but not the Reggie Steel, instead the Reggie Rock, and of course as our closer we're gonna keep the Shadow Steelix. I think for this team in order to succeed, Shadow Steelix is a must-have because of the crazy amount of damage that it can do with its Dragon Tails. Even resisted, those moves are not gonna be appreciated by the opponent, and of course with the Psychic Fangs you can farm down your enemies much faster. As your second move, I recommend using Earthquake over Crunch. I use on this video Crunch, I know, but Earthquake is just gonna give you the possibility to nuke down unsuspected opponents, especially something like a fighter, a Scrafty at the back, which is pretty common on the Ultra League. So you can see the synergy here. The backline is getting protected by Verizion against the fighters, while both Steelix and the Regirock can protect the Verizion from those Charmers, and of course you have a lot of coverage pretty much against anything in the meta. And against Tapu Fini, well, not only your Regirock can go toe to toe with that Pokemon, but also your Verizion can do a lot of work. So about Verizion, if you do not want to use Stone Edge, well, Leaf Blade can be your next choice, but I really like Stone Edge because of the coverage that it will give you for the Charizard, the Talonflames, and perhaps something like a Giratina or a Trevenant for the end game. So definitely a weird Pokemon to use up in front, but Sacred Sword has to be used no matter what. Regirock, about this Pokemon, you have to go with the Lock-ons and the Stone Edges, but if you have the Legacy move on its arsenal, the Earthquake, just feel free to go for it because it will give you coverage against the Steel types, and you can get there much faster than the Focus Blast. But if you don't have one, like I don't, well, you can always use the Focus Blast and you're gonna be just fine. So enough with that matter, this team is looking pretty solid. The core breaker that I have found out is gonna be the Buzzole, because Buzzole being part bug can definitely handle the threat of Verizion, and the fighting type will be super strong at the back. However, in the open meta, I haven't seen any Buzzoles at all, so I would not be that worried about this Pokemon, and this team will have no other clear weaknesses, so we're looking at a pretty strong team, pretty solid, and with full coverage against the open Ultra League meta. Tapu Fini has been a top meta Pokemon since its release in Ultra League, and here is a team with the leader being the Tapu. At the back we're having the safe switch on the face of Galarian Stunfisk, and as a closer I have here the Talonflame. If you do not have the excels, or for some reason you do not want to play Talonflame, where Charizard can definitely replace this Pokemon. So up on the lead, about the Tapu Fini, you're gonna be able to pressure a lot with your water guns. You have Surf for a cheap move, while Moonblast is gonna hurt even that Jellicent matchup, which is gonna be the core breaker. So we're looking at a pretty solid lead. I believe that Tapu Fini is perhaps the best leader for that Ultra League format on the open, and yeah, totally a very good one that you have to try out. At the back with the Stunfisk, you have a very solid safe switch, and here on the Ultra League you are much more bulkier than you are on the Great League, which means you can take hits much easier. And just imagine that in Great League it is considered to be a tank, so here is another tank on the face of that Stunfisk, able to spam those rock slides, and of course the Earthquakes can always be devastating for other steel types. As a closer, well, the Talonflame is gonna work as a very good closer for this team, especially with the Brave Birds, but if you do not have one ready to go, well, Charizard will be your number 2 for sure. As a core breaker, the only one that I have found out is gonna be the Jellicent, and that's mainly because of its typing, and of course the new Surf that is gonna be available to its moveset. So with Surf you can definitely destroy the backline that we have here, being super effective to both of our Pokemon, while with the Shadow Balls and its typing it is gonna be able to resist the moves that we're gonna throw, and the Shadow Ball is gonna connect for big damage on our Tapu Fini. Other than that, I think you're gonna be just fine, and this team is gonna work towards your favor on the open Ultra League for sure. Now we have a team that is gonna be from the good old days of Ultra League, with Swampert upon the lead, Giratina as our safe switch, and Walrein as our closer. This team right now works as a very good one for the meta, especially with Swampert upon the lead, able to catch a lot of those Charizards unexpected, and of course you have coverage against the steel types as well with your typing and the Earthquake. I do not recommend running Sludge Wave. I think that Earthquake, especially to a Shadow Swampert, is just gonna do tremendous tremendous amount of work against the enemy. At the back with the Giratina, I recommend using Shadow Claw, Dragon Claw and Shadow Sneak. If you want some coverage against the fire or the flyers or both, you can always run Ancient Power like I do over here, but overall Shadow Sneak is gonna give you coverage against Trevenant, and trust me, you need that one when you have a Swampert on your team, because it's gonna be the core breaker of this line, and the backline can somehow work around it, but it's not the best answer that you can get in the meta against Trevenant. However, both the Giratina and the Walrein can somehow handle this threat, especially the Walrein, with it being able to withstand the damage from one Seed Bomb, while those Icicle Spears cannot be taken that easy by the Trevenant. I really like Walrein with the standard moveset in this meta, able to spam its way to victory, and I think that even after the previous season that it got nerfed with the Icicle Spear, I think that Walrein is still a meta relevant Pokemon in the meta, and you're gonna see it a lot, especially with its typing able to go ahead and resist a lot of things, and of course being neutral against most threats. And as a closer, I like it a lot. If you have a Shadow one, don't go for it. I use it only because it's gonna be a rank one, otherwise I could use and could definitely go for that for a non-Shadow one, because of the much more bulk that you can get from your Walrein, and because it is super spammy, you can get to more moves if you run a regular Walrein for sure. Trevenant from a core breaker is gonna be turned into a leader for the next team showcase, and we're having a lot of action with a very nice backline, because Charizard is gonna be able to do solid work against the enemy. I recommend using the Shadow one here, unlike the Walrein before, because with the Shadow Charizard you're gonna do much more work with your moves. Wing attacks will get you there much faster than Dragon Breath or Fire Spin, so that's another huge factor that you should consider for sure, while Dragon Claw is gonna be used for cheap damage and Blast Burn for big lethal damage most of the times against the enemy. So you can see here that I run the regular one. That's because I have a rank one, and that's another flex that I do on this video. Well, I have those, so why not flex them? And to be honest, yeah, the rank one is working super good for me, but if I had a Shadow one pretty high on the ranks, I would definitely go for that. I have the Registeel here as a closer, but you can always use another steel type, something like an Empoleon or a Stunfisk, but be sure that it's gonna be a steel type, because you want this backline to be super good against fairy types, and I think you need a steel type that can handle that Tapu Fini for sure in order to threat it down eventually, because it's gonna be super meta relevant and you want to protect with your other two Pokemon your Charizard. Of course, we're gonna throw it here as a safe switch, but feel free to use your Registeel as a safe switch if you feel like you are gonna get countered a lot. So Trevenant is gonna also protect its backline from those Swamperts, so here is the synergy that you are looking for. Everything is connected on this team. You're gonna see that the charge attacks are gonna be your main way to go most of the times against the enemy. Blast Burns, Focus Blast, Zap Cannons, or even Shadow Balls from your Trevenant are gonna be your main way to go for sure. As a core breaker, we got the Obstagoon, which is gonna work pretty nicely up on the lead against the Trevenant, and at the back has kind of an even matchup, which is weird against Charizard, and against the Registeel also it's kinda weird because of the Focus Blast damage being so big, but after one Obstruct, if they run Obstruct, they can even survive one Focus Blast, and I believe that Obstagoon can definitely have the upper hand on this matchup. Definitely a weird core breaker for this line, but still a solid one for you to check out. Time for the final one, trainers, and we're having a lot of action with the Cresselia, the Pidgeot and the Cobalion. This line is gonna work super good with a lot of coverage on its individual picks. I really like as my closer the Pidgeot here, but I do not have one, so for the sake of science I'm gonna use Staraptor. About Staraptor, you might want to consider using it too, because as a closer it's gonna have much better capabilities due to close combat, able to destroy down even those steel types that are gonna be towards your way. The main reason that those two Pokemon are gonna be popular is gonna be the Trevenant being so meta that you can just go up ahead that Trev and completely farm it down, getting out of the battle with a whooping 100 energy, and you can either go with back-to-back close combats or just Brave Bird everything around, and of course with Pidgeot you can always debuff the enemy, grab a shield, but if they happen to have a steel type, well, you have nothing to throw there, so that's why why I prefer sometimes the Staraptor over that Pidgeot. And to be honest, yes, I have already said I do not have a Pidgeot ready to go for the Ultra League, so that's another huge factor for me using the Staraptor. Upon the lead, the Cresselia is gonna do a lot of work neutrally against the meta. Even against dark types, you got the Moonblast, while any Swampert that is gonna encounter you is just gonna switch out. So that's why I do not recommend using the Grass Knot on your Cresselia upon the lead. Just feel free to go with your future sight, especially for that Charizard or Talonflame matchup. As a safe switch here, we got the Cobalion, which I believe is gonna do a lot of work against the meta, with Sacred Sword able to do neutral damage pretty much against anything, and you have coverage against ice types and other steel types, while your Stone Edge will give you coverage against the fires, and I think this is a pretty solid Pokemon for you to check out. Even against Trevenant, you can go up against it toe to toe with your back-to-back Stone Edges, while you can definitely survive one Shadow Ball with these. I have decided to add the Registeel here as a core breaker only because of its ability to go pretty rough on Cresselia, and of course can completely wall down Pidgeot. So that's why you might want to consider running something like a Staraptor in the end of the day, because of its ability to get to the close combat and do severe damage to any steel type out there. My safe switch, the Cobalion, can also struggle against the Registeel, especially with the Focus Blast, but still the Sacred Swords with a combination of the double kicks are always gonna be super effective, so it's a give and take situation over there as well. So I would not be that worried about that matchup, but more like the Cresselia and the Pidgeot going up against the core breaker. Other than that, you're gonna be just fine, and that is gonna wrap things up for my Ultra League Best Teams video. Thank you for watching, trainers. Just be sure to leave a huge like before you go, subscribe to the channel if you already haven't, and if you want to support even more, well, joining as a member can always help with that matter. Thank you once again, and I hope to see you all into the next one. Take care, trainers.